if you know anybody that's making their own beer, cherry juice is concentrate's very easy to work with, and it's very persistent. So that if it's cold out and you're making like a nice chocolate cherry porter, that's a nice wintertime beer.
The Culinary Libertarian Podcast, episode 33.
Welcome to the Culinary Libertarian Podcast, where the philosophy is free, but the food is on you.
Hello, folks. Dan Reed here, the Culinary Libertarian. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy to have you here. Happy to be here. Head on over to my podcasts page, culinarylibertarian.com/podcasts. And there you can join me in my Eating Liberty Facebook group. You can also follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or also support me either with Bitcoin or Patreon. And both of those links are also on the podcast's page. That YouTube channel does have videos of me preparing various recipes, which are linked to the blog page. And so you can watch croissants and make the croissants, or maybe some Kahlua as a Christmas gift, because, it's not too far away. Shh, I just said that. I'm also going to be working on a new series of How My Garden Grows, which you can look for also on the YouTube channel. A couple more items. Please do like, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcatcher. This show is on most of the popular media, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and a newly added one for me, Podbean. Leaving a good rating and a positive review moves the show up in the rankings and gets more people to find it. The more people who find it are more people who get cooking. And lastly, do please share the show on your Facebook posts or with your Twitter posts to your friends, and hit the social media buttons at the bottom of the show notes page. That is another way you can help support the show by getting it out there in social media. The term academia is alone enough to induce someone into a coma. Oh, not that again. But when learning is made interesting, and the things we do, reading science fiction or watching The Hobbit, when they tie into a bigger idea about who we are, then things get interesting. Use my affiliate link to Liberty Classroom, culinarylibertarian.com/biteback, to find the Mythology and Western Civilization course, from Plato to Tolkien. Bradley Berzer is the lecturer on that course, and he covers why mythology matters and takes the lectures through the Stoics and natural law to Tolkien and free will. Liberty Classroom lectures are short enough to listen to on the commute, or at the gym, or in the kitchen. There are over 20 classes from which you can choose. Head over to culinarylibertarian.com/biteback to start your fun education today and bite back against the education from the state. culinarylibertarian.com/biteback. My guest today is Jack King of King Orchards in Central Lake, Michigan. Jack is a fruit farmer, and today we are talking cherries. Cherry season is a big deal in northern Lower Michigan, but also cherries are just plain yum. The Grand Traverse area produces the vast majority of tart cherries, found most often in pies, but also does produce a good portion of sweet cherries. The Grand Traverse area is touted as the cherry capital of the world. Jack and I will talk about some horticulture and then some savory uses for cherries, as well as some adult beverages. I'll include a series of links on today's show notes page, culinarylibertarian.com/33, which will be some recipes from Jack's orchard and some other cherry information. Welcome, Jack. Thank you very much for being on the Culinary Libertarian this morning.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. I said morning, but of course that refers to me, not to you, because where you are, it is mid-afternoon already. Tell us about where you are, how the business came to be, and how long you've been in the orchard business.
Alrighty. Well, right now I'm on our farm in northwest of northern Lower Michigan. So it's kind of a famed cherry growing region all along Michigan's west coast in Lake Michigan there. And it runs about the entire length of northern Lower Michigan, and but only about 10 miles from the lake. Once from the lake to that 10 miles, and then it starts to get too cold for really fragile, sensitive fruit like sweet and tart cherries. Uh, my dad and my uncle Jim had vacationed. They're from the Detroit area originally, but had vacationed in Traverse City and worked cherry orchards in the summer when they were younger. And after school, as they started to start their professional lives, they realized that, hey, those farmers we used to work for up in Traverse City, they just had the most fun on their cherry orchards. And why don't we try and do that? So in 1980, my dad purchased an 80-acre plot of land in Antrim County, which is about 45 minutes north of Traverse City, is our uh, big town near us, and it's right on the north end of Torch Lake. This location's right on the northern fringe. Not very many cherries that grow farther north than us, but it's really an ideal location with super rich, beautiful soil, nice terrain, very hilly, which is perfect for orchards. It's really an ideal location for a fruit farm.
Now, that I am from this particular neck of the woods has almost everything to do with why I'm talking to you, because I've been there. My brother worked there, and so this has some pedigree with me too. So I can attest to anybody who's never been to northern Lower Michigan or Antrim County or Torch Lake. There are few places in the world that are prettier than that.
Yeah, it's really a spectacular area, and it starts at Lake Michigan, and as the land comes up out of the water, there are nice sand dunes that quickly move into glacially formed hills that just run north and south, very long and steep, right along the lake, and it's that special terrain that kind of makes this area such a unique place, because it gives us this amazing microclimate that gives us the ability to grow all kinds of different fruits and vegetables. We actually have the second most diverse agricultural climate behind California here in Michigan because of these unique attributes.
Well, that is a detail I did not know, so that's interesting. Now, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's near me. There's a airfield, and the Air Force likes to play with their jets to give their fighter pilots practice at $45,000 an hour. From an eating standpoint, so we're talking, I know that you grow lots of fruit, and we'll maybe come in the fall, we'll talk about apples and pears and fall fruit. But right now, we're going to talk about cherries because I think the blossoms are just coming, but really, I want to get people excited about 4th of July and summer and ice cold cherries, and it's just good. So from an eating standpoint, or even juicing, or possibly even winemaking, I think I know of 3 kinds of cherries, but I think that you're going to tell me there's more. What kind of cherries are in the world, and what are we most familiar with?
Well, like so many fruits and vegetables, when you start to look at varieties, there's millions of types of cherries, and but it's really split into 2 different areas. There's sweet cherries and tart cherries, and I'm lucky enough to be in an area to grow both. I grow both sweet cherries and tart cherries. So um, the one of the biggest attractions here in northern Michigan during July is sweet cherries. You come out to the farm, you pick them off the tree yourself. They're big, crunchy cherries. They have them in both a really dark purple color called black sweet cherries, and then they come in both like a light yellow or a light yellow with like a red kind of blush to them. Those sweet cherries, and many people would be familiar with those, seeing them in grocery stores. That they're hardy enough to have some shelf life, that you can pick them and have them packed and sent to grocery stores around the country. Um, during certain times of the year. And so those are really a gem for just, fresh market, just eating them right off the tree, or, right out of your hand, and juicy, sweet, and delicious. And so that's one half of the cherry world. And the other half is the tart cherry. And tart cherries, of course, would be known for cherry pie, is really the big calling of tart or sour cherries. But they tend to be quite versatile. They go into all kinds of ingredients and products, and there's many varieties of both sweet and tart cherries.
So, okay, now I think probably as far as names people would recognize from the tart cherry side, I think Montmorency would be the most popular and recognized one. And on the sweet cherry side, probably Bing and Queen Anne and Rainier.
Yes, absolutely. Montmorency on the tart cherry side is the traditional pie cherry. It's the one that everybody's grandparents used for cherry pie, and now it's leading with all kinds of health benefits. There's all kinds of college research looking at all the good things that bright red color brings to the fruit, and how good just eating whole fruit is for you. And then sweet cherries, yes, Bings, Rainiers are sweet cherry varieties that grow really well on the West Coast. So you see a lot of those in Washington, California. We have similar varieties here in Michigan. We're very excited about the Pearl series. We grow several different varieties, burgundy pearls and black pearls. And then I've got a Radiance pearl that's a light sweet cherry that's going to be very similar to a Rainier.
Now, those, I have not heard of those, and that's interesting. Is Rainier and Queen Anne the same thing with a different name, or is it actually a different fruit?
It's actually a different fruit. Yeah. And there's so many varieties of cherries out there. And when choosing to plant cherries, you really need to look at a cultivar that's going to do well in your microclimate, and work with your soil well. And we like Queen Anne's and Emperor Francis for light sweet cherries because they're very cold hardy, and they produce a lot of fruit, and they tend to be vigorous, and so we really like those. Where we found the Rainiers didn't do as well because we're so cold here, that they maybe like a little bit more warmer climate.
Now, it's interesting because from a latitude standpoint, you're pretty much even with Washington and Upper Oregon, but it is true that it is colder there in the winter than it is here. So it's kind of interesting just that latitude alone isn't enough.
Yeah, it's it's all about the microclimate, and we get so much benefit being right against the lake, that as it gets really cold here in winter, we get a lot of heat coming off the lake that helps protect our fruit trees, and keep those buds from freezing. But once the lake freezes, it does tend to dip pretty cold here. So
Yeah, yes, it does.
we do see some winter injury in our trees.
So Bings, we know, travel really well. They can be shipped all over the country, and Rainier maybe less well. I don't remember seeing Queen Anne's outside of the Traverse City area, and so I'm taking, even though they're cold hardy, they may not be ship hardy. if that's true, what is the reason that we don't see Montmorency cherries or any tart cherries in the store? What's going on with that?
Well, definitely with tart cherry, specifically like Montmorency and those really good pie cherries, they tend to have a very short shelf. We generally plan on only about 24 hours, which uh, which is pretty pretty crazy when you think about fresh markets. So we take the cherries off the tree. You have to know exactly what you're going to do with them. If you're making pie fill, they need to be cooled in water, pitted and canned, and most of the time they're in a can within less than 24 hours. And what happens is that if you can't keep that cherry really cold for the short period of time, and then put it in the how you're going to store it, however you're going to process it, it tends to turn brown quite quickly, and it loses its flavor and appeal. And so Montmorency's, that's really the big hang up with why you don't see Montmorency's fresh. We do grow a tart cherry we're excited about. It's called a Balaton, and this tart cherry has its origins in Eastern Europe. It's got a thicker skin and a much darker color, but that thick skin allows it to be sold in grocery stores or in quarts in your fruit stand for fresh eating. And it's a little different flavor profile, but they're quite nice. They've been pretty well received. And we've seen some go out to grocery stores around the country, but that market's pretty small compared to sweet cherries. You know, everybody loves a good crunchy sweet cherry. Tart cherries sometimes a little harder sell.
Well, yeah, and as a kid in Traverse City, I used to carry my wagon behind me with a cooler full of fresh, ice cold washed sweet cherries for $1 a bag,
Oh yeah,
and the cooler was empty. They're just
oh
they're
yeah.
really good. You mentioned a moment ago about some health benefits, and that was something I wanted to ask you. The diet fads have been on and off for years and years and years, but one of the things that seems to be consistent is eat whole foods. So eat the apple, not the apple juice or the apple sauce, or in the case of the cherry. But cherries, I think people are looking at cherries in a more interested eye because of some of the health benefits. So what are those health benefits that cherries bring?
Well, they bring a lot of health benefits. They're really rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, and they're the highest natural form of melatonin. So they say they're really great for your sleep, improving the quality of your sleep. There's really a large list of health benefits from Montmorency tart cherries, and I'm just a guy. I'm an expert in trimming trees, not a researcher, but it's amazing how much information has been taken down, and how many health benefits have been found on the bright red fruits. And the tart cherry really brings a lot of that red color, and that brings a lot of health benefits. And you can actually find a lot of really great info on the health benefits of Montmorency tart cherries at choosecherries.com. That's our the cherry industry's information outlet from doctors and researchers that really know about the health.
And that's all cherries or just the tart cherries?
That's focused on Montmorency tart cherries.
When we get into something like a pie filling, we have added sugar. Now we're muddying the waters.
Yeah,
because we know that sugar has, yeah, it makes things taste good, but it comes with its own level of issues. So we might be getting to this trade-off of good and bad.
oh yeah, certainly, and I think a lot of life has that trade-off. So hopefully we're stacking up the good stuff, and there's a lot of options out there, a lot of good ways to eat tart cherries, because like on our farm we grow about 2 million pounds worth of Montmorency tart cherries every year, and we start shaking those. They're mechanically harvested, so we shake them off the trees. And at the very beginning of the year, the very first ones go to individually quick frozen cherries, because those are the prettiest cherries. So they get pitted and flash frozen. They get blown up in the air and instantly frozen, and they come in these bright red, beautiful little frozen cherries. And so that's a really great option for whole fruit. And actually, my dad eats those in his oatmeal like every day. He just grabs a handful, tosses them in there. And so that's a good option. And then next, we do some dried cherries. So we shake some cherries that then go to a processor that specializes in drying fruit. And those are good because that, you're really getting a lot of the flesh and the skins, which might hold a lot of that melatonin, and so that's a really good option. So you got dried, and then we actually put the majority of our tart cherries into concentrate, and we just realized that we had all these cherries to store, and they make this wonderful cherry juice. And the best way to preserve that fruit and hold the nutrients and all the good things this fruit provided would be to have it pressed into juice and then evaporate out some water so that you would be left with a nice thick concentrate.
Is that evaporated with heat or vacuum?
It's a vacuum evaporation, so they put it under pressure and then heat it up slowly, so that it's not necessarily
right. So the heat isn't destroying the stuff you're trying to save.
Right, exactly, because we really want those nutrients and the good things in the fruit, and you don't want to destroy them with the first round of heat. So.
For dried cherries, is that exclusively the tart cherries? Can you dry sweet cherries to make cherry I don't know. Can you dry sweet cherries?
I'm sure you can, but I really don't see any ever. We carry a couple different types of the dried Montmorency tart cherries. And what's cool about dried is we have the traditional dried cherry, which is a large, plump, soft dried cherry. But that's to make them really soft, they rehydrate them with just a little sugar water, and it gives them a really pleasant taste. But we also do an unsweetened, where they're a little more dense, and then they're dried and they bring a little bit more tart flavor. And so that's a great option if you're looking to avoid any of that extra sugar.
Right. So if someone's come to your orchard, or they've gone to the store and they've bought a couple of bags because they're on sale and they've got these just fabulous sweet cherries, what's the best way, if assuming they didn't eat them all, that they actually have some left over, what's the best way to store a sweet cherry?
Well, my favorite is frozen, and we have this nice orchard, and people that come out and they'll pick, and it's not too hard to really pick more fruit than you can eat in 1 week. I mean, I eat a lot of cherries, but if you have a whole bucket of cherries, it's a big commitment to eat all those. And so we have
Yes, it is.
it is a lot, yeah. So we have a cherry pitter right on site for sweet cherries, and it's really fun to watch. And it's just got a little sharp star punches that push through the flesh of the fruit and push the pit out the other side, and then you get a nicely shaped cherry that's doesn't have that pit in it anymore. And those are so nice because I don't even lay them out. I just, in the bag, I put them right in the freezer, and if they freeze quickly, they don't even clump up too much. You can kind of break them free like ice cubes. And let me tell you, on an extremely hot day, especially one of those really hot August days, like a half-thawed sweet cherry is just the most wonderful treat. Oh, they're so good.
Now, because they're frozen, they might actually function as an ice cube in that cherry drink.
Yeah.
So you're not diluting the liquid with water, but you're keeping it cold. Now, that's an interesting idea. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very nice way to go, especially if you're going to do like a little cherry lemonade and garnish it with a few frozen sweet cherries.
Cherry lemonade is a good idea. We need to come up with a recipe for the show notes page, which, by the way, I believe the show notes page for this episode is going to be culinarylibertarian.com/33, and you can find checking. Yes, 33 is going to be it. And so you can get all the information about today's information, and we will have some recipes up there for your cherry enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a few recipes from the farm here. Some of our favorite things to do with cherries, and I'll be sharing those. And cherry lemonade's definitely on the top of the list.
Well, good, because that was my next question. So obviously, anybody within 500 miles of Traverse City is well familiar with cherry pies and cherry turnover and cherry Danish. But what are some less obvious cherry desserts? And then for the cooks in the crowd, what are some savory applications that seem to be the favorites among your customers or even in your family?
Certainly, certainly. Well, definitely with cherries, they lend themselves to desserts and sweets, and there's so many wonderful options. One of my mom's favorites, it's always been a big hit, is a cherry jello. Um, and it's like a jello salad, and it's very simple, but it comes through with a really nice cherry flavor, and it's always a big hit at family parties. Um, we also do really nice cherry dumplings, like a kind of a cherry dumpling bake that comes out nice and comes through. But with the versatility of using like a tart cherry concentrate, um, a little bit of, if you're making homemade whipped cream, just a dash of concentrate in there turns it pink and gives it a light little cherry flavor that's so nice on top of your pie.
I like that. That's cool. I like that.
Yes, absolutely. So after sweets, and there's a lot of great options there, but breakfast is where they come in uh, the second most versatile area. And of course, I've already mentioned oatmeal and how wonderful frozen cherries are in your oatmeal. Um, but smoothies for sure. Frozen fruit goes in nice, but really an ounce of concentrate in a smoothie gives it so much fruit flavor, beautiful pink color, and at that same time you're getting all kinds of great nutrients to really get your day going. And we do wonderful little granola, like protein bars type deal, like a granola breakfast bars, or I even call them breakfast cookies, kind of that are pretty good for you, but have a nice dried cherry feel to them that are really really delicious.
Well, I like that idea, and I've everybody, well, kids for sure, there's 97 varieties of packaged crap called a breakfast bar in the store, and I refuse to buy them. And so I've developed a recipe that I make here. It's not less, it's got honey in it. So honey, as far as your body's concerned, is glucose, and it's the same thing as sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I know what's in there. I'm buying local honey. I can pronounce and I can pick, and if I have to, I can grow the ingredients. So I at least prefer my homemade peanut butter Rice Krispie bar. Okay, it's Rice Krispies, but at least it's something that I have control of to some degree. I cannot put Rice Krispies in it. So that's something that has an appeal to me because I like my sugar, but I'd rather make my own than buy my own for that kind of thing.
Absolutely. There's nothing like knowing what's in the food you're eating. And the best part about living on the farm is cooking with all of the great things you grow and have at your disposal. And that makes me cook from raw, and I just feel comfortable knowing exactly how much sugar is in the things that I'm making, or how many good ingredients are in
I think yes, and that's kind of what the culinary part of the show is, getting back to something closer to basics. I'm not saying go and grow your own wheat and if you can grind your wheat, that's great, but there is an appeal to and a need for the division of labor, but we can get back to something more wholesome, I think, and that's that's what one of my interests is. Speaking of wholesome, let's turn this for a minute into some other applications of cherry. Now, bakers are familiar with a liquor called Kirschwasser, which is a cherry liqueur. And as far as I'm concerned, a Black Forest cake is not a Black Forest cake without Kirschwasser. Also, you can put it in clafouti, also cherries. So, do you have any information or knowledge in turning cherries into adult beverages, either liquors or wines or even flavoring a beer?
Absolutely. So, to start with my personal favorite, because I'm a guy that enjoys an occasional cocktail after a long, hard day of work. And when I do, I go for bottom of the shelf bourbon, because the cherry flavor is quite powerful, and it wipes out just about everything. And most people wouldn't dare use the good bourbon, so you got to get bottom of the shelf bourbon. A little bit of cherry juice concentrate, just a spoonful, about an ounce, and some plain soda, and combine those and use a spoon to lift the cherry juice off the bottom of the glass, because it is quite heavy and dense. And once you mix it in there, it gives it a nice color and a really, really nice cocktail. Hints of bourbon, nice cherry flavor comes through. And if you would like to get fancy, I like to make my own cocktail cherries to go with my cocktails. So frozen sweet cherries, if you have, especially the ones you picked yourself, but pitted frozen sweet cherries are the best, because they have that really big, firm flesh and a nice presence. But individually quick frozen tart cherries work very nicely as well. And you can do like a Bordeaux wine soaked cherry, like a Bordeaux soaked cherry that comes through nice, and you can add your own spices to that. I know some people add like cloves and things in there, or a brandy soaked cherry, depending on the type of drink you're making. But a brandy soaked cherry is very nice.
A friend of mine has a podcast, and he's a bartender, and he was talking about, and I forgot the name, a French product, which was a liquored up cherry, which I've had, when really good, but certainly making your own or coming close to it is a good idea. And I like the idea of the spice, because I'm thinking of like a mulled wine for, say, a Thanksgiving meal, and you put some cherries in there. And then I'm a big fan of things like cardamom would actually go good with cherries. It sounds weird, but it would be a good combination. So that sounds kind of nice and warm. I want to ask you about. No, go ahead.
One of the things that's great about tart cherry in particular is that it's got a very strong, persistent flavor that's going to come through in a lot of the combinations. So it really finds itself fitting in nicely with other robust flavors, and it really makes it a great ingredient for beer. And so if you know anybody that's making their own beer, cherry juice is concentrate. It's very easy to work with, and it's very persistent. So that if it's cold out and you're making like a nice chocolate cherry porter, that's a nice wintertime beer. In the summertime, we see a lot of cherry Berliner Weiss, or a cherry Goza is very, very nice. And so I do see a lot of people making cherry beer, and I'm always happy to try it.
Cherry chocolate porter sounds fantastic. I have to look into that. I want to get just a wee bit technical about the sour cherries.
Sure.
As I'm assuming, the sour is an acid. So what is the acid, and what is the percentage of concentration to that in the cherry?
So the concentration is measured in, we use a bricks.
Right.
And so it's concentrated at 68 bricks. So when we are making single strength juice, I mix it 7 parts water to 1 part concentrate to get back. So like 1 ounce to make a nice 8-ounce glass of juice.
Right.
So it is quite concentrated.
And what is the acid?
I'm not sure right offhand. It's
okay, well, that's all right.
Fairly acidic.
Well, they are. And I mean, I know that one of the reasons cherry pie is so good is there's that nice balance of really tart and sweet. And we, when we were kids, we picked tart cherries and we ate them, but you don't eat too many of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I know I'm kind of bouncing around here. You mentioned savory things. Those acids really lend themselves to some savory dishes, and definitely I'm looking forward to grilling season here on the farm. And something that really complements my grill is a cherry chutney. Uh, Nice. You can use frozen cherries or frozen tart cherries or fresh tart cherries, and I just stew them up with onions and garlic and sometimes a little crushed red pepper, and very simple chutney, but the acids come together, and then on top of a nice grilled pork chop is a really wonderful place to be.
That sounds really good. All right, so I'm curious about another form of adult beverage, and you mentioned having this massive amount of cherry pits. Have you ever tried cherry grappa?
I have tried grappa. I've never attempted to make any myself, but the conversation has kind of come around the farm once or twice.
Well, and the question really was, have you tried making it? I mean, I don't see it as an option, but now I'm not a distiller, so I don't know these things. But to me, a grape pit and a cherry pit are only different in size and a little bit of the color on the skin. So it seems possible. So there's either it's just a horrible product, and grappa's if you've ever had grappa, it's not really that great to begin with. So maybe it's just really, really bad, or it just isn't feasible. Maybe that's why we don't see it.
Yeah, I don't know right offhand. I don't know anybody that makes one, so it must be difficult or something. Sure.
Well, or maybe you simply can't get out of it what you need to for what you put into it.
Yes, certainly.
So there's got to be a good market reason why it doesn't exist.
Yeah, definitely.
So back in 1980, there wasn't really such a thing as an internet, and when the orchard was started, there was no real vision for digital marketing. So I know that you have a web page. So in terms of people, at least certainly in the lower 48, but possibly Canada, can you ship in the summertime? Tell us your website, and then how can we actually get your fruit?
Okay, great. So we do run a website and a little bit of a mail order business out of the orchard here. Year round, you can get tart cherry juice concentrate in several different sizes, and that's all. We're shipping that every day, um, along with dried cherries and we do a cherry pie filling. And an interesting product is they're canned cherries and they're packed in water, so there's no sugar or anything added. So those are some nice options for all year round. During the winter, we do ship the individually quick frozen cherries, and that, like I mentioned, is a really nice product. And when it gets to you, I want you to open it up and have it be really bright red and frozen inside. So we only ship those during the winter months. We do some fresh fruit shipping, uh, and it's kind of a cool little unique thing we do. It's not real big, but what we'll do is we'll wait for the really perfect quality of sweet cherries to be coming in. We'll be watching, and when we feel that they're absolutely at their prime, we'll have like just 2 days of sweet cherry shipping. So I have people call up, get on the list, and then when we hit that perfect quality, we'll call everybody and on like Friday, and then ship them fresh sweet cherries on Monday.
That's cool.
So yeah, you can get fresh sweet cherries shipped to you. It is kind of cool, but it only comes around like once a year. And of course we grow apples here too, so we ship apples for a much longer season. But those are also we feel that the absolute best quality Honeycrisp are coming in, we hand select those and pack them and then ship them.
Very good. That's very good. So tell us your website.
It's kingorchards.com.
And I will put a link for that on today's show notes page. And I just have a few more questions for you. And this is sort of kind of the little fun part of the show. If you've ever watched Inside the Actors Studio, I've stolen the idea from the end of that show. Just a couple of quick answer, interesting questions, at least interesting to me. While this may seem obvious, the answer, what is your favorite food?
Specifically, ginger gold apples.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And let me just tell you why real quick. And I eat fruit like all day, every day, because I'm in the orchard. I'm always testing ripeness and quality. And so I find myself eating fruit, whether it's strawberry season or cherry season or apricots or peaches or nectarines. It doesn't matter what I'm eating. I'm always eating fruit off the farm all day long. And it tends to be pretty soft all summer long. All those fruits are deliciously juicy, soft fruits. And the first apple that we have come in is a ginger gold, and it is a really hard-fleshed apple. It's got this giant crunch. And so everything you've had all summer long has been soft, and you finally get this ginger gold, and it's so hard. And it's got this great bite and crunch to it. It's just my favorite apple of the year.
The explanation is better than the answer. I like that. What is your least favorite food?
Peaches.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And we grow peaches and nectarines. And, of course, I eat peaches, like I said, for quality and things. But generally, I like a nectarine. I prefer the flavor and the texture in the skin better on a nectarine. And if I take peaches home, I'm either making an upside down cake or I'm grilling.
Huh, okay. Well, the fuzz on a peach is definitely a thing for people. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What gets you excited?
Oh, so many things. The best part about being a farmer, being a grower, is watching your crops grow. I love being out in the orchard and seeing the new growth on my sweet cherry trees, seeing the fruit potential as the cherries start to grow and start to show on the trees. And then just that buildup as you've been tasting them and tasting them and tasting them for days until you really feel, oh, that's the flavor we're looking for. Let's start to pick these.
Nice. What turned you off?
Well, pretty happy guy here on the orchard. Not too much to worry about. Big hailstorm during prime fruit season is really my biggest bummer. So
yeah, no, fair enough.
And when you get out there and you see like all these beautiful apples that you were so excited for, and they're all just dented up and pocked up, and you're like, oh man, we're going to be making so much cider this year. And I like making cider. I've got a little cider press, but I don't want to make an orchard's worth of cider.
No. What sound do you love?
Sound. Well, I'm going to have to go with that apple crunch. You get that big crunch that just sounds right.
Okay. Yeah. What sound do you hate?
Don't know. Sound of my tractor braking, generally. When you got a lot of work to go and you hear it banging away, you know you're in trouble. It's going to be a long night.
Oh, well, that'll do it. Yeah, it's going to be long, yeah. And what is your favorite food indulgence?
Well, I'm a savory guy. I love, some grilled fruit and sausage combo. I'm always a fan. So that's probably my favorite.
Well, that sounds pretty darn good to me. All right, well, that's all I've got. And if you're up for it, we can come back in the fall and we can talk all about apples and tell us more about the ginger gold, because that sounds interesting. I don't remember that apple, so I'm curious about it.
All right, well, I'll send you some. They're They're really nice. You'll enjoy them.
Well, that would be very nice. I appreciate that. And thank you very much for your time this morning. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for having me. We just put a lot of love into this orchard, and I really enjoy you taking the time to listen to me talk about it.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. I've learned something, and that's good. Learning is the big deal. So have a good morning, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right, folks, that's going to do it. Remember, you can find links to 6 recipes from King's Orchard at culinarylibertarian.com/33. On the podcasts page, culinarylibertarian.com/podcasts, you can pick up a copy of my Muffins e-cookbook. Just leave me an email address or pick it up as a Kindle copy. You can change out the blueberries for cherries and make some dandy cherry muffins. Or if more impressive desserts are on your list for this summer, my affiliate link to Kiko's Cakes can show you how to make a Black Forest Swiss roll or other impressive and doable desserts. Kiko is an accomplished pastry chef. I've watched his videos and he knows what he's doing, and he can teach you how to make fabulous looking desserts without fabulous amounts of time. It's doable and you can do it. Go to culinarylibertarian.com/Kiko's Cakes. That's culinarylibertarian.com/Kiko's Cakes, or find the link on the show notes page, culinarylibertarian.com/33. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.